Hey Sarah, welcome back. Today we're diving into something wild: why we think we know what motivation is, but we're probably dead wrong about it.
Oh, I love this topic because I feel like I've tried every trick in the book. The Just Do It posters, the 5 a.m. club, the vision boards, none of it sticks. So what's the real deal here?
Exactly. And spoiler alert, the problem isn't you. It's that we've been sold a lie about motivation being this mysterious force you either have or don't. But science says it's way simpler and way more trainable.
Wait, trainable? Like, I can learn to be motivated? That sounds too good to be true. I mean, I've heard of motivation hacking before, but it always felt like a gimmick.
Right? But hear me out. Motivation isn't some ethereal spark, it's a biological response. Your brain releases dopamine when it anticipates a reward, not when you're suffering through a task. So if you're waiting for motivation to strike before you start something, you're already setting yourself up to fail.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're saying we should manufacture motivation instead of waiting for it? But how? I feel like that's just pretending.
Not pretending, engineering. Think of it like priming a pump. You don't wait for water to magically appear, you turn the handle first. Same with motivation. You start the action before you feel inspired, and your brain's chemistry follows.
So the just do it advice isn't totally wrong, but it's missing the how part. What's the actual mechanism here? Like, what's happening in my brain when I force myself to start something?
Great question. When you initiate an action, even a tiny one, your brain releases dopamine in anticipation of progress. It's like a little reward system saying, "Hey, we're on the right track." The key is starting so small it feels ridiculous. Like, literally 2 minutes of a task.
2 minutes? That's it? That sounds way too easy. What's the catch?
No catch, just physics. Your brain can't sustain resistance to a 2 minute task. Once you start, you're already in motion, and inertia takes over. It's like rolling a boulder: the first push is the hardest, but after that, it's easier to keep going.
Huh. So the trick isn't about motivation itself, it's about tricking your brain into creating the conditions where motivation can happen. That's wild. But why does this work? Is it just psychology, or is there actual neuroscience behind it?
Both. There's this thing called the dopamine loop. Your brain gets a hit of dopamine when it expects a reward, which is why gamification works so well in apps. But here's the kicker: you don't need the reward to be big. Even a small sense of progress triggers it.
So if I'm, say, writing a book, and I just write one sentence today, my brain rewards me for that? Even if the sentence is garbage?
Exactly. And that's the genius of it. Your brain doesn't judge the quality, it just rewards the attempt. That's why habits like write one sentence or do one push up are so powerful. They're small enough to bypass your brain's resistance.
Okay, but what about when you're really burned out? Like, when even the 2 minute rule feels impossible? I've been there staring at my to-do list like it's a foreign language.
Then you pivot to environmental motivation. Your surroundings can do the heavy lifting for you. For example, if you're trying to exercise but hate the gym, leave your workout clothes out the night before. If you're avoiding emails, put your phone in another room. The less friction, the easier it is to start.
Oh, I love that. So it's not just about forcing yourself, it's about removing the obstacles before they even show up. That's such a relief. But what about people who say, I don't have time? How do you motivate someone who's already stretched thin?
You reframe time as energy. Motivation isn't about having more hours in the day, it's about optimizing the energy you do have. For example, if someone says they don't have time to cook, I ask, "What's one meal you can prep in under 10 minutes?" Often, the answer is, "Actually, I do have time for that."
That's a great point. So it's less about motivation being a time issue and more about it being an energy issue. But here's a tough one. What about people who've failed so many times before that they're convinced they're just not wired to be motivated?
Ah, that's where the identity shift comes in. Most people think they need to feel motivated to act, but it's the other way around. You act first, and then your identity shifts to match. Like, if you want to be a productive person, you don't wait to feel productive, you do one productive thing, and suddenly, you're that person.
So it's like the whole fake it till you make it thing, but with a scientific twist. That's actually really empowering. But Alex, I have to ask, why does this feel so counterintuitive? Like, why do we all think we need to feel motivated before we start?
Because we've been culturally conditioned to believe in the muse, this idea that inspiration strikes like lightning, and you either have it or you don't. But creativity and productivity aren't about waiting for a lightning bolt, they're about showing up consistently, even when it's boring or hard.
That's such a good point. It's like we've been sold this romanticized idea of motivation as something magical, when really, it's just chemistry. So, what's the biggest mistake people make when trying to hack their motivation?
The biggest mistake is setting goals that are too big, too vague, or too far in the future. I want to write a book is a terrible goal because it's overwhelming. I'll write 200 words today is a great goal because it's specific, small, and immediate.
Okay, but what if someone's goal is big? Like, say, starting a business or running a marathon. How do you apply the start small idea to something massive?
You break it down into the tiniest possible steps. For a marathon, it's not run 26 miles tomorrow, it's put on your running shoes and walk out the door. For a business, it's not launch a product next month, it's write one sentence about what your product does. The key is to make the first step so easy it feels silly to say no.
I love that. So the secret isn't in the size of the goal, it's in the brevity of the first step. That's such a simple but game-changing reframe. But Alex, I have to ask, what about people who love the grind? The ones who thrive on pressure and feeling motivated. Does this still apply to them?
Even then, the science holds. Those people are often riding a dopamine high from the anticipation of a challenge, not the challenge itself. But here's the thing, that high is temporary. Eventually, the brain adapts, and the motivation fades. So even for the thrill seekers, the sustainable approach is to build habits that don't rely on adrenaline.
That's a great reality check. So no matter who you are, the key is to make motivation reliable rather than reliant on fleeting feelings. But how do you stay consistent when life gets chaotic? Like, when you're juggling a million things and motivation just vanishes?
You layer in systems over goals. Goals are about results, systems are about process. For example, instead of I want to get fit, your system is I'll work out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. The system keeps you going even when motivation wanes.
Oh, I love that. So it's less about I need to feel motivated to work out and more about I have a system that makes working out automatic. That takes so much pressure off. But what about people who say, I don't have a routine? How do you start one?
You start with one anchor habit. Something you already do every day, like brushing your teeth. Then you attach your new habit to it. After I brush my teeth, I'll do 5 push ups. That's it. No need for a full routine, just a tiny, sticky habit.
That's brilliant. So it's not about overhauling your entire life, it's about finding one small thing to anchor your new habit to. But Alex, I have to ask, what about people who hate routines? Like, the free spirits who thrive on spontaneity. How do they fit into this?
They can still use systems, just more flexible ones. For example, instead of I'll write every morning, they might say, I'll write whenever I have 10 minutes of downtime. The key is consistency in when, not how much. Even free spirits need some structure to avoid burnout.
Got it. So even the most chaotic among us can find a rhythm that works. But here's a tough question. What about people who genuinely can't find anything that lights them up? Like, what if someone's stuck in a job or life situation that feels soul-crushing? How do you motivate that?
You start with micro agency. Even in the most oppressive situations, there's always something you can control. For example, if someone hates their job, they can't control the work, but they can control their posture, their breathing, or how they respond to emails. Small wins build momentum.
That's so important. It's not about waiting for the perfect life to motivate you, it's about finding the tiny pockets of control you do have. But Alex, I have to ask, what about people who've tried everything and still feel stuck? Like, what's the next level after systems and habits?
Then you dive into meaning. Motivation fades when a task feels pointless. So the real hack is to connect your actions to something bigger than yourself. For example, if someone hates cleaning, they might reframe it as I'm creating a peaceful home for my family. That shift in perspective can reignite motivation.
Wow, that's profound. So it's not just about tricking your brain, it's about giving it a why that matters. That makes so much sense. But what if someone's why feels far away? Like, what if they're saving for a trip in a year, and it's hard to stay motivated now?
You create intermediate rewards. Dopamine loves instant gratification, so you build in small celebrations along the way. For example, if you're saving for a trip, celebrate every $100 saved with a fun activity like a picnic or a movie night. It keeps the dopamine flowing.
That's such a smart idea. So it's not about waiting for the big reward, it's about sprinkling little rewards throughout the journey. I love that. But Alex, I have to ask, what about people who are too hard on themselves? Like, what if someone beats themselves up for not being motivated enough?
That's where self compassion comes in. Beating yourself up triggers cortisol, which kills motivation. Instead, you treat yourself like you would a friend. I tried my best today, and that's enough. That shift reduces shame and makes it easier to try again tomorrow.
That's such a kind and practical approach. So it's not about guilt-tripping yourself into action, it's about being your own cheerleader. I think a lot of people could benefit from that. But Alex, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about people who genuinely hate their goals? Like, what if someone's forcing themselves to do something they don't actually care about?
Then the real question is, why are you doing it? If it's not aligned with your values or desires, maybe it's time to let it go. Motivation thrives on authenticity, doing things that matter to you, not to someone else's expectations.
That's a hard truth, but an important one. So the first step might not be how do I motivate myself, but do I even want this? That's a game changer. But Alex, I have to ask, what about people who've changed their goals midway? Like, what if someone realizes they don't actually want what they've been chasing?
Then you pivot. There's no rule that says you have to stick to a goal forever. Life is about evolution, not perfection. If something no longer serves you, it's okay to let it go and redirect your energy towards something that does light you up.
That's such a freeing way to think about it. So motivation isn't about forcing yourself to stick to something, it's about tuning into what actually excites you and letting go of the rest. That's a huge relief. But Alex, let's wrap this up with a question I know listeners are wondering. What's the one thing you'd tell someone who's feeling totally unmotivated right now?
Start with one tiny action. Not I'll do my whole to-do list, just I'll open my laptop and type one sentence, or I'll put on my running shoes and step outside. The rest will follow.
That's it? Just one sentence or one step?
That's it. Because once you start, your brain's chemistry shifts. You're no longer waiting for motivation, you're creating it.
Wow. That's so simple, yet so powerful. I feel like this conversation alone could change someone's week. Thanks for breaking it down for us, Alex.
Anytime, Sarah. And to our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment below with your favorite takeaway. We read every single one.
And if you're feeling stuck, remember, motivation isn't magic. It's momentum. Start small, stay consistent, and trust the process. See you next time.
Take care, everyone.